Welcome to This Week in Hospitality Marketing, the podcast show number 259, with your host, Loren Gray.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hospitality Marketing, the podcast. I'm your host, Loren Gray, and this is episode number 259. So each week we spend around 20 to 30 minutes sharing the most interesting tools, news, and techniques being used in marketing for the hospitality industry. We also do a quick recap of our weekly live video show, This Week in Hospitality Marketing, which also airs every Friday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern U.S. time. So with that, let's get started.
And now, today's new resource tool.
So our tools for review this week are two, and they're keeping to a theme as we always do. We have mentioned other video creation tools, video ad tools. We've also mentioned other image tools and image creation tools. And we've compared them against a variety of offerings. I mean, we also, Canvas that Facebook has and so forth, and they're getting more adaptive. They're recently beginning to include video as part of their production capabilities and so forth. And of course, not everyone is fluent in editing video. It takes a little bit of a learning curve for some platforms. We've reviewed some excellent video editing platforms like Filmora and so forth. And then we've also edited, like I said, a lot of video ad creation tools. Some of the features that we find to be highly valuable are, rather than having to always define the size of the ad based on the platform that you're going to use it for, these platforms have gotten very robust into offering the sizes necessary for what it is you'll be posting for. And these two types of platforms we're going to talk about today are no exception to that. The first one is called Tile, which is Tyle.io. And the second is getstencil.com. Now, they're completely different to each other in the sense that one is video animation, video creation for ads, and then the other is image creation for ads. And I'm bringing them up for a reason we'll get to, obviously, when we talk about our techniques this week. But the value proposition both of these offers, Stencil I've had for, Get Stencil I've had for a while, and I have it as a kind of like a bow and a quiver, or arrow and a quiver, where you have a variety of times that you need to mix things up a little bit. Each of these platforms have resources for images and content and fonts, layouts, designs, templates. And again, we've gone through a variety of platforms that do these in a variety of ways. But they all have their nuance to them, their own editing capabilities, their own diversity of images. Some share the same databases, so you're seeing kind of the same images on all of them. And then others are completely different as to the images you pull from. And you literally grab that platform because it's affordable and easy to see and make something different. Now, as I mentioned before, both of these platforms work very well with adapting to what size you need for what channel you're creating. So in comparison to doing a Facebook news feed versus a Facebook post versus a hero image ad or versus an Instagram or versus LinkedIn or what have you, the different sizes requirements all change. And it's very frustrating on some of these platforms, the older platforms that haven't been adaptive, to make it for a certain size and then you want to reuse it for another platform, only to have to go through a lot more work on readjusting the size of the fonts, the text overlays, the image usages, so forth. That gets exacerbated a lot more when you start dealing with videography, where you're now changing the length of the video, the amount of audio behind it. Are you using a voiceover or using music? And Tyle, Tyle.io, is very good about auto-adjusting all of that. So as you choose the platforms that you're looking to create this on, it automatically adjusts the length of the video, the size of the video, the size of the fonts, the overlays between the opaques and the solid items that you're using. It adjusts all of it automatically, which makes it very fast and very effective to say, I like this template, I like this layout, and I did it for Facebook, but I want to do that for Instagram too, or I want to do that for my LinkedIn, or I want to do that for my Twitter post. And you want to put an image or videography into it, and it adjusts it for it very nicely. We have other, as mentioned, platforms we've talked about like this that does this, but it also draws on different images. And what I like about this videography one for Tile is that it also adjusts automatically the audio. That in itself can sometimes be a challenge because when I've had to adjust my own audio, a lot of times I have to find the section out of the audio that crescendos and is allowed to taper off that fits the images of the videography that I've put into play. It isn't always just the beginning of the audio. For those that do this, you'll understand what I'm talking about. For those that don't, it's a learning lesson where you need a certain segment of audio that plays well to the animation that you have in the video. And it isn't always just the first X seconds or a few seconds of the audio that you're taking. Sometimes there's too much of a build-up, too long of an intro. And you can go and go down rabbit holes of downloading audio and zingers and tease lines and all these other things that are available. Or you can try to slice and do your own lead in and taper off based on the audio that you want for it. Well, Tile does a very good job of readjusting based on the action of the video, the audio as it matches it. And it's a very good tool to save time with, which I've really come to appreciate a lot more. It allows me to pop out a lot of these video ads. Now, the reason why I find that to be important and why I'm highlighting Tile today, you'll see very quickly when we start talking about technique, but we will be definitely going on to what the value proposition is, to why that's helpful, being able to create all the diversity of ads that we're talking about and what it is that we're using them for. Now, Get Stencil, same as with the videography, but also with more just the imaging, readjusting the size of the image ads or the image postings that you're creating for the different platforms also can be very time consuming, and readjusting them for other platforms. It does an excellent job of readjusting them for you. It does a great where you say, okay, I've made it for this one. It's a Facebook newsfeed, which is larger, 980, whatever. And now I need to go and do it for a vertical ad. Okay, it does that. It'll also change it over for what you need for Instagram or for Twitter, or if you need to do it for LinkedIn. And all these sizes are different for all these different platforms, mobile versus desktop, on and on and on. So very helpful in the sense of time savings, that these things auto adjust correctly. It changes all of your font sizes, your layouts, without re-changing the configuration of the video and in the view of the ads, both in video and image. So the two tools this week are Tile, Tyle.io, and Get Stencil, GetStencil.com, are our two tools for the week.
Now, for this week's hospitality technique.
So our technique this week is, I like to phrase it as fishing, or where to fish in an ever-changing market. Now, as over these past few weeks, and given our current circumstances in our economies and our industry being ravaged that it is in the current economies, every day, as we've mentioned in last week's podcast and podcast before, every day is its own normal, and every day is different than the previous day. We're faced with different challenges and different ways of finding and defining our markets, of those who are willing to travel, wanting to travel, how are they traveling, where are they traveling from. All these questions are ever changing each day. And each day we're faced with creating new strategies for them. Well, a lot of times, no matter your best research, and we've had some great podcasts talking about how to research and look at trends and follow information and determine where it is you should be looking for your guests and where they're coming from. Even with all that information, there is still an art to determining if you're correct or not correct. And a lot of times it means casting a wide net. It means looking at your sources of content and deciding what it is that people might be interested in hearing about or for, and why and where. And from that, you need to create a variety of posts, a variety of means of engagement for these people. Now, the first element of this process is to go over and diversify your posts on your social platforms. It is the most affordable, it's the most broad spectrum, and it also has the highest opportunity of trackability as to what that engagement means. We've talked about tracking softwares like Social Insider and so forth that will allow you to see what your engagements are, what the engagements are of your competitors, and determine what it is that people are responding to, both by the time of day, also by the type of person, by the type of post that it is, image or video, and the context of it. And we can even go back in farther podcasts and live shows where we talk about the diversification of storylines that you put in social media. And by diversification of storylines is anything from off the beaten path, local and cultural and culinary and family and soft adventure. These are categories of content based upon your location of your property, what it is you're offering, what's in your surrounding markets. These are perpetual dialogues. You're always addressing each of these segments and also other segments that are, business cycle as to the time of year, seasonality, events driven, and things that are happening in your destination and what have you. These, of course, all get modified by our current circumstances. Not everything's happening the way it historically has in our markets, whether it be event-driven or opportunities to take advantage of things that are in your destination. We have restrictions as to what restaurants are capable of offering, even your own restaurant. So all of these things are in flux. So where do you fish? Where do you find people that are still wanting and needing to travel? And we talked at great lengths, both the last podcast and the podcast before, breaking that down into giving them the information that they need to feel safe for their travel, then giving them information they need to understand what it is that's available during their travel with you. The third would be what it is that they're available to do while they're traveling near you. And the fourth is what is it they might be interested in traveling to you for. With those 4 segments in place, you need to put content out there in these categories that we just talked about, aka fishing, to find out where the fish are. What is it that they're interested in hearing about? To do that, you need to do a diversity of post types. And in order to do that expeditiously and without sucking away your entire week of work, these tools we just talked about, the Tile and the Get Stencil and others, are all means of efficiently creating the variety of the posts that you need, both visually, in video and image-wise and message-wise. And by peppering them into your social and seeing how they engage with these pieces of content determines whether or not you're maybe close to where they are. Maybe they're interested in this stuff. Maybe you've hit a vein on your road trips about come and stay and drive around. We have some beautiful roads to go see. We have wineries that are still open, or we have farmers markets that if it's not an out-of-the-way trip for you, that you can come visit us and then see the farmers markets and still go home with a bounty full of things that are produced in a market that you're not living in. Whether it's going out and seeing parks that have a low density of people and they're from a high density city area and they want to get away and go someplace different and a road trip sounds wonderful. These are all aspects. Whether it's a train ride and they feel comfortable that the train doesn't have enough people on it to be worried about the social distancing, whatever it may be, if you can help and inform them, these are the things of content that you put out there. And by using these tools to create the videography and the imagings that you're needing, you're able to see what they engage with most. Video and images are the first go-to when it comes to these kind of postings. They get the highest engagement. They get the highest eyeballs. They get the most value to what you're spending the time for compared to just texting, oh, we have a farmer's market 2 blocks down. Well, that's great. Where's the link? What's the, what are the things? What's unique? Show us a picture of it. Is it a big one? Is it a little one? Is it a specialty in certain produce? Whatever. But these are the little details that make the difference between just throwing stuff out there and throwing information out there that is interesting, and like bait in fishing, you get attention. So the technique of fishing, where to find the fish in an ever-changing market, and using the tools that can expeditiously give you that diversity of posting on social, then means that at that point, is it valid enough to put that content on your website and have that backing up all the reasons why people, when they discover your hotel or your restaurant, find reasons to stay with you because you're providing additional information and services with them. And these same images and these same videographies will help in that messaging on your website as well. And maybe even to accelerate that and say maybe there has to be some sort of special incentive offering associated with that because you are in a great nexus of something, maybe it's wineries or whatever, food, farmers markets or what have you, that it's worth mentioning it as a means of selling a particular package, a length of stay package, or a weekend getaway package, or a drive market package, and geo-target that. And who is it in that geo-market that would be taking advantage of that demographically? What age is the categories? What family structure do they have? How far would they be willing to travel and for what reason? Now you begin to get that structure of marketing put together with the fact that you were able to diversify your content postings, see what people responded to by monitoring it correctly, and then and amplifying that and taking that content and putting it into a format and an opportunity for people to take advantage of that are willing to do business with you. So our technique this week, fishing, or better yet, where to find where the fish are in an ever-changing market.
Now, this week's hospitality news that you should know.
So news and show review. Had a lot of fun today. This was one of those shows where we didn't have a predetermined guest co-host, and we didn't really have something like with Melissa where she came in from Fuel Travel last week and we did the 7th version of their Sentiment Travel. It was really a chance to take Robert Cole's ever well curated list each week from Rock Cheetah, and kind of go through it on what we were interested in dialoguing about. Let's always make the fun shows where we're throwing stuff up and around, and we're all looking at it from our own different perspectives. With me was Adele Gutman from currently Library Collection, soon to be of her own business, which will help with creating culture in your hotel to better provide service to your guests. And she has certainly got the pedigree to prove that with all of the hotels that she has operated over the past 20 years that have all made it in the top 5 of TripAdvisor globally and in New York. So she certainly has the means to bring your hotel's culture up to the service standards that allow you to excel in reviews and people's perception of your service qualities. So also with us was Dean Schmidt. Also, he started his own companies for MetaSearch, which is phenomenally well. He's the guru of MetaSearch. And the fact that he's starting both training and also servicing those that need MetaSearch done for them, he's hitting both markets in an exceptionally excellent time. Also with us was Tristan Hayward and Ben Handley from 3 and 6. They're located across the pond in England. Their agency is a go-to for just about everything. They were formerly from Travel Tripper, then into Pegasus, and they have done an exceptional job of broadening their capabilities and their team with them. And it's always a pleasure to have them on the show with us. And of course, Miss Lily Mockerman with ThinkSup and TCRM Services. She does revenue management yielding for hotels, plus all things marketing, consulting for hotels as well. And then Mr. Stuart Butler with Fuel Travel, who is always a pleasure to have with us. Lots of fun conversations. We, of course, hit the first topic that Robert gave us, which was the fact that cleanliness and communication continue to drive hotel guest satisfaction, according to J.D. Powers. J.D. Powers has a massive ability to scale the surveying of this. As Robert pointed out in his newsletter, which, by the way, if you would like to sign up for free at any time, you'll get the same list that we get, which is a wonderfully curated list each week. And you can go to bit.ly/Rock Cheetah, all lowercase. Sign up for that, and you get the same newsletter as us. Robert does a lot of work with J.D. Powers and Focusrite. This was a recent study that was done. Actually, in this one, he wasn't actually a participant in this process, but he brought it to our attention, where it is still the main concern of people's travel concerns is what is it that the hotels are doing and how the hotels, unfortunately, are falling down in what they say they're doing versus what they're really doing at the hotels. And we had quite a long discussion about that and some unfortunate horror stories on our own as to hotels that weren't even following the basic standards previous to COVID and what was discovered compared to what should be done past the post-COVID time period. Also, we talked about how do you rate the culture of success. Adele had a great very in-depth and well worth the listen to as to what a hotel should do for cultural success. Stuart made a great statement which goes back to what it is that you focus on is where your energy flows. We had a very lively discussion about what I felt in the soapbox kind of way was the fact of we are so inundated with white noise of all these people coming to market about basically magpieing each other or echoing each other with, oh, we should be doing PPC and we should be doing this and this, all this 101 basic marketing. And what's unfortunate is nobody's talking about advanced marketing, the things that really will make you lean and mean and good in your market. Everyone is running around selling basically the same set of basic goods. We'll do your PPC for you. We'll do your marketing for you. We'll do your social for you. But it's all basic and fundamental. It's about fulfilling just basic services, not necessarily what it is advanced that you need done for your business. So one of the point examples I made was with Google My Business, where they've offered 19 different new things with their Google My Business that are specifically built to help businesses in the COVID environment we're in right now. And so few businesses are taking advantage of these new leveraging tools that will help people know what your business is doing in this current business market. So that was my big example for that. Stuart and Lily both got into a long discussion and good discussion as to the impacts of rate reduction and length of stay strategies. We're seeing that length of stay strategies is becoming a very strong leveraging point within our current market, and what it is that hotels are doing about whether they need to or don't need to do rate reductions based on the demand coming to their individual markets. We went through again as to discussing, why people are traveling, what they're traveling for, what's the method of travel, the distances of their travel. These are all very fluid and dynamic, kind of what we just went through our tools and technique process of. And all of these things are variables that need to be in constant consideration when you're planning your strategies literally per day. So with that, I would like to talk a little bit about more of a kind of a fun, quirky way of saying advanced studies. And the article I pulled out of Robert's list, which I thought was applicable to this, was an article from Forbes, which was Netflix tourism to sites of shows like Stranger Things, Breaking Bad, Ozark is a thing. And I have to say that thinking out of the box and thinking how and why people travel, we tend to get too basic about this. I was just recently on a sales call, and for people that have been out of it, been put on ice, so to speak, that they were furloughed, then brought back, and for those who have been continuing to try to manning the ship, I talked about a lot of diversification as to motivation versus completions, and a lot of lack of perception as to the new way things are. And one of those is that they try to take on what they used to be doing and put it into current context, and that doesn't work. You can't just simply say and sit in a sales call and say, I'm sorry, the corporate traveler's not traveling anymore. Chalk that off. FIT's not traveling anymore. Chalk that off. Consortium's not traveling anymore. Chalk that off. People aren't flying internationally. Chalk that off. Those are all, yes, thank you, Captain Obvious moments. The real thing that has to be looked at is what is happening. Who is traveling? Why are they traveling? Where are they traveling from? And you put those questions up on the board and you go through that process. Well, all of us are a little stir crazy staying at home. We're a little stir crazy staying isolated for those that are. And we're looking for ways and means to kind of change up what it is our daily routine is like. And road trips and traveling and things like that are not too distant, more staycationist, if we want to try to loosely define what we consider staycations to be, are a bit of what we're talking about, a change of venue. And to that end, some people are looking for their interest categories. Obviously, none of us are strangers to Netflix or platforms like that during this time. We've probably exercised our entire library of, gee, if I only had the time to watch it, now we probably have watched all of it. So with that, a lot of them are looking for, well, where was that filmed? Like, for instance, a program that we like is Bloodline that was in the Keys. We lived in the Keys. It was fun to see places that we recognize, but we'd like to drive down there and take a look at how it looks now when compared to when they videoed the show and so forth. And so too with other shows like this article Netflix is pointing out, Forbes, as Stranger Things, Breaking Bad, Ozark. These are all places that people want to just drive around and see places that are in the movies and the shows that they've been watching. Strange niche, but again, a handful of people here, a handful of people there, and you have enough people in your hotel. So just you wanted to use that as an example of thinking a little outside the box, thinking differently than what other people are thinking of right now, and realizing that kind of advanced dialogue, that next step thinking process has to be in your process of discovering going forward to basically keep your hotel alive and functional through this incredibly bad down period that we're having right now. So remember, you can find us on Google Play, Apple iTunes, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Spotify, Pandora, TuneIn, Podcast, literally 38 platforms and counting. We're even on Amazon Alexa, Google Assistant, and Siri. Just ask to play the Hospitality Marketing Podcast, and they'll play it for you, the latest episode, which will be this one. No matter which one you may use, if you like the show, please rate us and leave a comment that allows others to discover this content as well. Hopefully you enjoyed what it is that you listened to today, as our other podcasts. Also, if this is your first time hearing us, of course, you can subscribe to our show on any of the platforms that you did discover us on. For an archive of all of our previous podcasts, you can go to hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com/podcasts. And don't forget our live video talk show that you can join and participate in every Friday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern U.S. time, called This Week in Hospitality Marketing, the live show. And for that, you can simply go to hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com/live. And you can see all of our previous episodes in the archive there, as well as along with show notes and links to everything that we discussed on that particular show. Again, thank you for the privilege of your time, and we look forward to talking to you next week.
You have been listening to This Week in Hospitality Marketing, the podcast show 259, brought to you by Hospitality Digital Marketing in support of the HSMAI, the Hospitality Sales and Marketing Association International. All rights reserved. Copyright 2020.